even with the former minister, Jane Philpott's open attack on the Prime Minister in Maclean's magazine, claiming there is much more to the SNC-Lavalin story yet to be told. That was a bombshell. Even when Jane Philpott said all this just 2 days after the budget, blowing the budget off the front pages, undermining the Liberal agenda, angering her Liberal colleagues, still the Prime Minister refuses to kick Jane Philpott and fellow Rebel and former Cabinet Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould out of the Liberal caucus. Why not? Now, here's another development. Jody Wilson-Raybould says she will provide written submissions to the Justice Committee of evidence, she says, and relevant facts that will clarify her testimony and respond to other witnesses who appeared after her. So the drip, drip, drip of this controversy has now created a flood of problems for the Liberal government. Let's bring in the Scrum to sort all this out, because I'm sure they can. Tanya McCharles is a senior reporter with the Toronto Star. Joyce Napier is CTV's Ottawa bureau chief. Craig Oliver is CTV's chief political commentator. Our special guest this round is the former NDP leader, current CTV political commentator, Tom Mulcair. It's amazing what these people can do with no sleep. Tom Mulcair, what a busy week. How damaging was the first, we'll start with Jane Philpott, that Jane Philpott interview in Maclean's magazine, coming just days after the budget.
It was a game changer. It was a bombshell. And the reason it was so important, the SNC-Lavalin file, the interference in the Attorney General's job, was starting to peter out. Too many details. I think Canadians were starting to move away from it. But she came right back and said there's still a lot that needs to be said. And you're right. Jody Wilson-Raybould, at the end of the week, wrote an important letter to the Justice Committee saying she was going to provide written evidence, but she used 3 words in there that were crucial: within the confines. So she's signaling, as did Jane Philpott, that there's a lot more that Canadians have a right to know. They just don't feel that they're allowed to say it with the rules that Mr. Trudeau set down as to the timing and what they're allowed to say and what they're not allowed to say.
But Philpott went farther even than Wilson-Raybould had ever done, and I think that this is unsustainable for any Prime Minister. What she said was the Prime Minister and his closest advisors are attempting to prevent this story coming out and preventing the truth coming out. Basically, she said it's a cover-up by the Prime Minister.
I think that's what Jody Wilson-Raybould has been saying all along.
No, she has never said directly that the Prime Minister is preventing a story coming out.
I will disagree with you there. Jody Wilson-Raybould, every time she's spoken about the fact that she has this waiver and she's limited in what she can say, is essentially implying that.
But the opposition is saying it's a cover-up, and she's saying it's a cover-up also.
This waiver is debatable. What they're allowed to say and not allowed to say is still debatable. So can she get up in the House of Commons and tell the truth because she has privilege? Absolutely. We know that. Yeah. That is a possibility. And I'm sure...
if she can get the opportunity to get a standing order, gives her a minute.
For some reason, I get the House would probably give her that opportunity. I'm just guessing that would be important enough for the House that this would be, right? So... what they can or cannot
what happened
say,
this week,
but what they can or cannot say is still up for debate. I'm sorry, because if other people have testified to this cabinet shuffle and what was said about the cabinet shuffle to Jane Philpott about Jody Wilson-Raybould, then why is it that they did not feel that the same waiver applied to them? Now, is there an end game here?
Because they haven't been given a chance.
No, well, I don't know if they haven't been given a chance.
No, look, this week, let's look at the facts. This week, the Conservatives brought forward a motion to try to give them the chance to speak. As Jane Philpott said correctly in that interview we just referenced, how can she, in an SO 31, those are those famous 1-minute statements MPs make before question period, how is she in 1 minute supposed to rebut or give context to 4 hours of testimony? She said it's absolutely
We have heard much longer statements than that. That's not true. That is really like nitpicking.
That is true. They tried to get a longer statement, and the Liberals voted against it. Let's stick with the facts.
Can any MP not stand up in the House of Commons on a question of privilege and say, under my privileges as an MP, I have a statement of great importance to the country to make, and would they not be recognized and allowed to give that? And all of that statement would be protected by the immunity that's given MPs in the Commons.
A great expert named Rob Walsh, who used to be the House law officer, says they can do that. Jane Philpott, and don't forget, Jody Wilson-Raybould has a former Supreme Court justice guiding her on this.
Tom.
You asked the question. Let me just get to it. There is a real question whether or not that actually covers her if she reveals cabinet confidences. So she has every right legally to want to know in advance if she's going to be protected. So far, Mr. Trudeau has only allowed a part of the truth to come out. Both Jody Wilson-Raybould and Jane Philpott are saying, let the whole truth come out.
Okay, before we decide to get all Gnostic and count the angels dancing on the head of a pin, I'm not sure every lawyer's got something here. But here's my question, and Joyce, I'll ask it to you. If there's a debate about the waiver where they can speak, and the Liberals say, oh, they're free to speak. This is what the Liberal contention is. They can speak all they want. But there still is within the public this notion that they haven't got the Prime Minister saying, just go ahead and do it. If they're so unafraid, why don't they just give them the waiver, let them speak, and if they've got something, let it out. If they don't, it's nothing.
I totally agree with that.
Exactly.
Why don't they just give a waiver? Why doesn't the Prime Minister, and I have asked that question to the Prime Minister's office, what's up with not standing in front of a camera and saying, okay, you have something to say, speak. Also, however, these two people who say, I have a secret, I have a game-changing secret, but sorry, I can't tell. Seriously, I find that smells like a game, and there is an end game here, and if there isn't an end game, then I don't understand what they're doing.
Craig, let me just go to Craig, because the Prime Minister now has tolerated this situation for weeks and well past a month, Craig. The Prime Minister's got a decision to make. Can he tolerate them in caucus or not?
No, he cannot. No Prime Minister I've ever known would have or did have to put up with assaults on his personal integrity by former senior ministers of his government who are still sitting there in caucus. This is,
So what's he doing to him with that? The fact that he keeps defending them.
It's maybe weak.
And she's giving strength and support to the opposition parties who want to defeat his government. They both are. And so now you're starting to see caucus members, Tom, starting to question these women for doing that. And I can see a caucus gang up on them coming.
And he's paying for his own policies.
Well, I think
he wanted diversity, he got dissidents.
Tom.
I think that the words "these women" are actually going to be crucial here. In her interview, Jane Philpott was asked straight up, what do you think of Bill Morneau saying that the only reason you talked about this is you're good buddies with Jody Wilson-Raybould? Her answer was revealing. She said, that's insulting. She said, this is about morality. This is about ethics. This is about doing the right thing. And she was insulted that Bill Morneau would let it be known that as far as he was concerned, it was because Jody Wilson-Raybould was one of her girlfriends. That is insulting. It is becoming an issue that affects Mr. Trudeau's credibility on the issue of women in politics, which is something that he has tried to make a mark on. And right now that is turning against him whole hog as the whole rest of it becomes undone.
What I've heard is that the Prime Minister likely will try to call a caucus vote, walk out of the room, let caucus vote on whether these two women should stay in. So he says it's not my decision, it's caucus. That's one possibility if he decides to do it. But Tonda, in the midst of this, just real quick, where does this go from here? You've got the CEO of SNC-Lavalin undermining the Liberals' position that this whole thing was about the 9,000 jobs. He said, we never said that. Jane Philpott's coming out. You've got more evidence we'll have next week or this coming week about where's this going?
Well, it's not going anywhere soon, is it? That's right. I mean, it's going to be with us for a while. This is one of the most frequently and fast evolving stories I've ever covered on the Hill in 20 years. And so I think we have changes daily. It's not going anywhere. And had they thought to put it to bed with the budget, that didn't happen. And now people are talking about, well, so what does all of this mean for an election? And there's mutterings about an election campaign in the air again. So look, it's not going away anytime soon. If they'd hoped that people had already formed an opinion, I don't think we're there yet.
And it has weakened a Prime Minister, and that's all that party has, is a Prime Minister. He's never let a strong team develop,
They had 150 newcomers come to that party when elected to the House of Commons under Trudeau's banner.
All right, last word to you, Tom. Where is this going? What's your view?
I don't think anybody would have predicted a week ago that we would be back talking about this issue and it would be so hot at this point right now. So it has been unpredictable so far. Let's wait to see what's in Jody Wilson-Raybould's documents, and then let's see if Mr. Trudeau has the courage to allow both of these strong women to speak up. A lot of people are watching this. They all know that they're being held back from what they can say. I don't think that Justin Trudeau's going to have any choice but to finally lift the veil and let them speak.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I'll tell you one thing, the drip, drip, drip strategy that they've deployed has not worked so far. Tom Mulcair, great to have you on the program. Coming up,